actually went over to United CDJR in Bay Ridge in Brooklyn and picked it up yesterday. And I have to say, I am even more impressed than I thought I would be. Like, I really, really love it. I love the way it develops power. I love how comfortable it is. It's a huge boat of a car. It makes me feel like I'm back in the 70s again, except for it's much safer and slightly more efficient. It's got a 6.4 liter naturally aspirated V8, of course.
Of course.
But, I'm glad.
Can I ask Kevin if he's impressed? Like, does this impress you, Kevin, this vehicle?
Yeah, look, he's down 4 cylinders compared to what I drive. But
that's a burn.
It is good.
Kevin likes the V12 in a Mercedes, which,
yes,
I can't really reach that far. One day I'll be there, Kevin. But so I actually tapped your knowledge, Kevin, to because this is a dying breed, right? This is the last year that Dodge is making these cars, and it could be the last year for Dodge in general. What do you see in terms of the retro muscle cars that were kind of born with the rebirth of the Mustang in, 2007, 2008, and the Camaro and the Challenger came along? How have they fared versus each other?
Well, yeah, I think we're kind of winding it down. The thing is, and this is really what happened if you go back even a generation or two, and I was always a big Trans Am guy as far as F-bodies
That
went.
does not surprise me.
Back in the day, more Trans Am than Camaro. But, that's why they were killed off in 2002, or at least the Trans Am was that they just started to get expensive, right? They got big, they got heavy, and it was supposed to be about cheap horsepower, especially for GM, which already had Corvette. And I think that's what we're getting back to now, right? We haven't talked about it yet, but I sent you the data on it. But if you look at average transaction price of something like Challenger, it's above $50,000, right? I think it's 53, which tells you that there are no more, rental fleet garden variety 6-cylinder. I mean, they make them Mustangs or Camaros or Challengers or even Charger. People are buying the fire breathers. They're buying the high horsepower vehicles, which are pure profit for the manufacturers. So volume is way down, but the revenue pool is actually not as far off as the unit sales would show. But still, going forward, it's going to be a tough sell. And I think, Dodge and Tim Kuniskis at Dodge, who you probably know as well, look, to him, fast is fast. So if it does wind up being some sort of hybrid or electric drivetrain and Challenger and Charger do survive, which they showed concepts of them, during the past year, they're going to be performance vehicles anyway.
The one thing I was really disappointed about in my Challenger, and everybody says, I don't care about the stereo, I want to listen to the engine, which, okay, I get it. You're super tough. I like to listen to music. I chose the $1,495 additional Harman Kardon stereo option. There's like 3 levels. I went to the highest level. Of course you did. It is awful. I mean, the sound quality of this Harman Kardon system is horrendous. And the fact is, all of these branded stereos, the Bose, the Bang & Olufsens, even the Burmesters, you paid the extra money, and for the most part, they just suck. Kevin,
have you tuned it, or are you just,
Kevin, why do the factory stereos, even if they're branded, from these special, audiophile, corners of the market, why are they so bad?
Well, think about it, right? If you have a high-end system in your house, it's in your house, right? If you have it in your vehicle, it's exposed to all kinds of elements, conditions, temperatures, vibration. So while it's a name brand and supposedly a high-end system, it just can't be the same thing as what you would get, in a home system. So I think that's as much licensing the name.
They just license the name and they throw in the cheapest, crappy, made-in-China speakers they can possibly find. That's what it sounds like to me.
Holy
yeah, you're going to take it to the beach. You're going to get sand in the speakers, and so
kids gonna
they're not going to give you the high end. They look, hey Matt, like even in my V12, right? It came with it's 2001 technology. I have a cassette deck, and rather than upgrade it, I've been going around buying cassettes from all the record stores.
No surprise. All right, let me ask the existential question of the day. I've been asking a few people in the face of Tesla willy-nilly cutting prices again. It seems to me the willy-nilly term. It just makes me once again want to know, do we know what the real long-term demand for EVs are? I get the feeling like we don't.
How do you go from the Dodge Challenger with a naturally aspirated
I got the
V8?
expert.
This
up
is
here.
the opposite of EVs.
I got the expert. I'm dying because I'm starting to get skeptical that a lot of people, or everybody's going to go to EVs.
Yeah, I am too. Always kind of have been, and I think the two factors you have to look at is that yes, cutting prices, and really they're still the only game in town. So it just kind of shows that the profitability really isn't there for everybody else. And I don't think that you have to look at price parity of EV versus internal combustion. You have to look at profit parity, right? An automaker's not going to build what they can't make money on, right? And that's where we are. And I think the 2024 lineup in terms of what's coming and all these EV announcements that we've had, and the laundry list is huge out to 2030 compared to plug-in hybrids. But I think if there's not significant improvement through 2024 in terms of demand and profitability of that drivetrain technology, I think you're going to start to see those 2025 and beyond plans and forecasts start to change significantly. 2024 is kind of set, right? You can't roll that back at this point.
Yep.
But I think beyond that, there's still a very, very big and scary question, I think, for that technology.
Well, Kevin, your colleague Joel Levington is writing on Bloomberg Intelligence on the credit side that Lucid loses $338,000 per vehicle.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's how much they lose on their already expensively priced vehicles. But
Yeah,
I
and-
think Dodge is
and-
making money on my Challenger.
And keep in mind too, right? That business model that has a lot to do with direct sales, right? And this idea that that's a better model. But if you have a franchise dealer base, retail base as a manufacturer, you're booking your revenue on the sale to the dealer, right? Even if it sits on the lot for months and months, that revenue to the manufacturer is booked. If you're selling directly, you're not booking that revenue until the vehicle is delivered and paid for. So what you're getting in the cases of Lucid and Rivian is production. You're paying cost of goods to build the vehicles, but if you can't sell them, so if your sales or deliveries are 60% of your output, that's where you get so upside down at the gross profit line, and that's what's happening there. They would be better. I think they sort of believe the myth that direct sales were better. Maybe for the consumer they are, but for the manufacturer they're not, and would have been better off to say we have a franchise base, and if we produce, I don't know, even if it's a small number, 4,000 units a quarter, we've sold them and booked the revenue for those units on the wholesale to the dealership instead of having to worry about, because you get into a demand environment like this and you can't move them, and then your cost of goods is through the roof and your revenue is through the floor.
I want to dovetail. So the death of the V8, right? My Challenger is the last of its kind. With the resurgence of, or the birth of EVs, is Tim Kuniskis really going to come out with a muscle EV? I mean, they teased one like a year ago, and no one's heard a thing about it since. Do they have anything to replace the Challenger and the Charger with?
I mean, it would be that, right? I think he showed it at CES originally, and there was a bunch of automotive stuff there. And look, and I get it. We were out in Monterey for Car Week there and drove around in Rolls-Royce Spectre, and it's unbelievable, right? And it really does feel, or I should say, the V12s feel like what those high horsepower EVs feel like.
Exactly.
So
the EV kind of mimics a big block feel. It's just power, torque,
and quiet, right? And quiet. So I think he can get there with if the goal is performance, he can do it with Charger and Challenger and EV. The only thing I didn't really like is that they had piped in engine noise. It's like, hey, look, if it's an EV and it's quiet, just leave it quiet.
Okay.